Okay, so we are on mouse wheel. I want to be able to, looking at the nature of the controls, I want it to be very easy to zoom in and out of what we're working on, and the keyboard controls right now seem a little bit too awkward for me. I think it would be nice to just be able to zoom and pan with your mouse, and then also lay down different colors with the click. So click, 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 zoom, pan, click, 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 zoom, pan, right? So that's what we're going to do. So let me get my editors. Sure, I'll reload it. Let me get my editors down here on the other screen. Context switching isn't too bad when I keep my editors open and just keep them on another monitor. So yeah, I think I was demoing some stuff here. Let's actually put the other image back in. That doesn't matter too much. And I just want to figure out how to get mouse wheel to work. And I honestly, I don't know how that works, but I know we're gonna have to put something in here for that. So let's figure out how to do the mouse wheel stuff. So first thing is, we'll keep chat open over here. www.mousewheel.com. I don't think that would work, but I'm curious now because I'm making stuff up. I gotta do that on another screen because you never know. Like, we might be getting ourselves viruses. Might end up. Mousewheel.com. Yes. Is this the answers I need? Mousewheel.com. Application. Yep. I need a mouse wheel for an application. Yep. Yeah, it's a software. Yep. All right. Nope. I don't think I'm where I need to be. Well, we tried. So, anyways, what we actually need to be doing is Win32 mouse wheel. Alright, I've never done this before. I have never done this before. I imagine it's not too hard. Mouse wheel message, yeah, that would be important, right? So, the window gets a mouse wheel message, and then you do some mousy wheelie stuff with it, right? Mouse wheel is rotated. Okay, so WM mouse wheel, and this is the thing for it, right? So I'm gonna make a shortcut for that. So I have a very technical system for how I name my shortcuts for mouse wheel and things like that. So this number right here, right? And it's WM mouse wheel. Sure, I have this open in multiple places, huh? Okay, so my shortcuts, we're just gonna say, we're gonna put the number there, right? And then we're gonna take this define name. And this can be bad, but I really don't think the internals of Windows are going to change anytime soon. If you write code like this, you may be writing brittle code, so maybe don't do what I'm doing. But I like to actually have a clear view of what I'm looking at and avoid abstractions. So I actually, instead of including this, well, first of all, I'm not including windows.h anywhere in my code base, so I can't use this. So I'd like just to hard code this, right? Okay. So we've done all that, but what we really should do is we should also have this. Have it properly typed as well. And then also, might as well just make a shortcut for the exact name. That's wrong. When I type things wrong, I make my own autocorrect, right? So this is a correction. And then WM mouse wheel, and then WM mouse wheel, and WM mouse. That's right, all these different shortcuts to get me to this answer so that I never have to look this up ever again in the future. Okay, so now that we have the value for WM mouse wheel, we have some code here for, this is our default window proc, right? So, win message handler window proc, right? So it's a window proc and it's a window messenger thing, right? WND proc, so, okay, anyways. So now that we have this, let's check our chat. Nobody likes us, so that's fine. Yeah, so let's figure that out, right? So let's work with this switch case. I really don't like how I formatted this switch case, but that's how I formatted it. So I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to put the closing, I'm going to save some space. I just don't like how I formatted that. Oh boy. And I don't have to, right? This is better, right? That's better. Yeah, I don't know why I was doing that weird. I don't have it formatted that way anywhere else. I don't know why I had it that way. I'm gonna guess that maybe at some point I probably made some erroneous code with some bad syntax and I was probably trying to balance my brackets. I'm gonna guess that's what happened. Okay, so we have this case for the mouse wheel, and we're just gonna paste that in there, right? So we're just gonna be like, hey, case mouse wheel stuff, then, you know, colon whatever the heck, right? And then close off that case, and then break, right? So you don't have to have this extra scope. This extra scope is just so that I think that stuff from this scope here can leak into this scope here if you don't have a scope operator. I think. I may be wrong. But also, I don't know, there's something about it that gives me comfort to know that these are very logically isolated, and if I write it this way, I never have to remember about this break, right? Because it's like I've coded it in a way where I can just put all my stuff in here and not worry about it. So that's just something I saw people doing on Stack Overflow, or some random person did on Stack Overflow. I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. Why don't I do that, right? Okay. So the mouse wheel, yeah, we got the mouse wheel event, but we need to know how to, we need to be able to extract things from the parameters, right? So there's a W param and a L param, a wide parameter and a long parameter, I believe, something like that. It's like a low word and a high word, or like a wide word and a whatever word, I don't know. W param, the high order word, indicates the distance the wheel is rotated, expressed in multiple or divisions of wheel data, which is 120. Okay. So it looks like to me so I really just care about W param. Get wheel delta. Let's go look at that. If we have it's a macro, but how? But how does that actually work, right? I just want to know, like, how that macro actually works, because I'm going to hard code High order word signed. Okay, so I might be looking at this and not know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm gonna guess. I know it came from WParam, and it's getting shifted over 16. For maximum clarity, I would define a set of functions like this. Internal static class, native methods, internal static, U short. Is this C# code? I don't think C# does this, really. Int pointer. These are this is interesting here. I kind of like this. I'm gonna make a note of that because I think that's interesting to note and just say, put that under native methods. Win32 native methods helpers. Right, so I think that's interesting. So I'm gonna take that and I'm just gonna put that into some notes. So if I want to find that in the future, Win32, Win32. I don't know, help. Native methods helper. Okay, and then I'll go over here and let's go. Alright, so I'll put some shortcuts. And so that way I can find this if I ever am like, I'm interested in that. I remember seeing that thing on Win32. Show me what that is. Also, do I have a shortcut that just says Win32? I don't. So you know, if I type Win32, I'm going to say, try Win32 native methods helper / W32 NMH. NMH for native methods helper. So sorry, I'll go back over here. Yeah, so I don't have a shortcut for Win32, so I'll make this. And Win32 NMH, and then also Win32 native methods helper, and then also Win32 NMH. Win32 NMH. Okay, so we have that in there. Let's put that back here. And I'm just going to steal. It said short. So over here, let's look at. So if we're looking at this on Stack Overflow, you know, notice it says this. We're bit shifting over 16. So it said higher order words signed, which makes it, that lines up with the documentation, right? So yeah, right. WParam, high order word, indicates the distance the wheel is rotated expressed in multiples or divisions of wheel delta, which is 120. So I might want to look at wheel delta as well. So I was actually looking for. So it says wheel delta is 120, but I would like to see it in the documentation somewhere else, like, you know, like a big list of like Microsoft constants, wheel delta value, right? Why was wheel delta chosen to be 120 instead of a much more convenient value like 100 or even 10? We saw some time ago that the nominal mouse wheel amount for one click, known as detent, is specified by the constant wheel delta, which has the value of 120. So I want to read about this because I actually don't understand what they mean by like a delta is a change, right? A change from one state to another. So a constant value of 120 makes no sense, or it's like it's some type of scalar value, right? So the wheel moves an amount and you compare it to 120 to get some type of fractional value, I'm guessing. I don't know. So wheel delta. So try y. So over here, I'm gonna read this article. So try, wheel delta y, or right. So wheel right, it's gonna be 120, right? So 120 is the wheel delta. Why is it 120? I don't know. Okay, so we got this. And there's also wheel delta y, right? So wheel delta y. And then also right, so just some ways where I can find this next time I look at it, right? Next time I'm looking for it, hopefully I can find it a little bit easier, right? We're just going to take this article here, and we're going to put it in here. And then also, maybe we will put our chat up on the top window, just in case somebody says hello to me, and I want to know. So, okay, get wheel delta, blah, blah, blah. But we want to look at this. Okay. Why was wheel delta chosen to be 120 instead of a much more convenient value like 100 or even 10? Raymond, 2013. We saw some time ago that the nominal mouse wheel amount for one click, known as detent, is specified by the constant wheel delta, which has the value 120. Why 120? Why not a much more convenient number like 100 or even 10? Because the value 120 made it easier to create higher resolution mouse wheels. Okay. As noted in the documentation, the delta was set to 120 to allow Microsoft or other vendors to build finer resolution wheels, a freely rotating wheel with no notches, to send more messages per rotation, but with a smaller value in each message. Okay, got you. So I do think that this is some type of fractional value, right? So, when the wheel rotates, you're probably going to do like 1 over 120 for like a very small fractional movement, and then like 120 over 120 for a big fractional movement, and then something in between, right, would be like 60 over 120, right? So 0.5. Like, so I think that this value is being used to help create a normalized magnitude between 0 to 1, right? So a float value between 0 and 1. I don't know if that's true. I'm just kind of like taking some guesses as I'm reading this. The delta was, yeah, because then we're saying this also kind of lines up with that. Suppose the original wheel mouse had 9 clicks around its circumference. Click 9 times and you've made a full rotation. I have no idea how many actual clicks there were, but the actual number doesn't matter. Therefore, each click of the wheel on the original mouse resulted in 120 wheel units. Suppose the original wheel had 9 clicks around its circumference. Click 9 times, and you've made a full rotation. Okay, got it. I have no idea how many actual clicks there were, but the actual number doesn't matter. Therefore, each click of the wheel on the original mouse resulted in 120 wheel units. Okay. So there's 120 wheel units in a whole wheel in a whole circle, I think is what they're saying. Now suppose you wanted to build a double resolution wheel. Say 1/18 clicks around the circumference instead of just 9. With 18 clicks around the circumference instead of just 9. If you reported 120 wheel units for each click, then your mouse would feel slippery because it scrolled twice as fast as the original mouse. The solution to have each click of your double resolution mouse report 60 wheel units instead of 120. Okay, so there's a divisibility by 2 kind of a thing here, right? So, right, so right, so 60 divided by 120, but then why not just make it a power of 2 if you want to make it divide, etc. I don't know. That's why the number chosen was 120. The number 120 has a lot more useful factors than 100. Yeah, okay. The number 100 to the power of 2 times 5 to the power of 2 can be evenly divided by the small integers 2, 4, 5, and 10. On the other hand, the number 120 equals 2 to the power of 3 times 3 times 5 can be evenly divided by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So also while we're on this, this is why we have the imperial system in America, and that's why, right? So, like, metric would be saying, hey, make it 100, but 120 would be kind of like, is basically an imperial kind of like system here, right? Right, the 12 feet, sorry, not 12 feet, 12 inches in a foot, right? Yeah, 12 inches in a foot, and then how everything's divided by 12, right? It's because of, you know, this divisibility issue. Okay. If you wanted to build a triple resolution mouse wheel and the mouse wheel value were 100, then you would have difficulty reporting each click because you couldn't just report 33 for each one after 3 clicks. You would have reported only 99 units. The application, which waited for a full mouse wheel, would still be waiting. Your mouse driver would have to report 33, 33, 34, 33, 33, 34, and so on, and then it gets messy if the user changes scrolling direction. On the other hand, if mouse wheel were in 120, then the triple resolution mouse could simply report 40 units per click. Okay, so why 120 instead of just 12? So we don't have to do things in floating point, I assume. As noticed in the documentation, the value was chosen so that it would be possible to build a mouse with no clicks at all. The wheel simply spun smoothly, and you could stop it at any point. Such a wheel would report 1 wheel unit for every 1/3 of 1 degree rotation. If the detent were only 12 units, then the wheel would report 1 unit for every 3 1/3 degrees rotation, which wouldn't be as smooth. I don't know if anybody has developed such a mouse, but at least the possibility is still there. There are free spinning mouse wheels, but I don't know whether they are normal wheel delta values, just without the mechanical detents, or whether they really do report fine rotational information. Okay. So yeah, okay. So when they say 1 mouse click, is that 120 to go all the way around? I don't honestly know. I guess we'll just have to mess with it, and then as we mess with it, we'll figure it out, right? So okay, yeah. So let's just do this. So let's put this over on the other monitor here, and we got the mouse wheel message here. And then the W param is right here, right? So we're ready to use W param And we stole that code, right? So why don't we just say, you know, in our code we can just say get wheel delta, right? And it's a short value. So let's just say, you know, int32 wheel delta equals, and do like an int32 cast of what we're about to do, right? So, right, so a short, and then wparam. Okay. Okay, once we have the wheel delta, I have no clue if that needs to be how that relates to 120. Um, 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 wheel delta d10 equals 120. But I'm not sure how this relates to it, right? So, we're just going to say for now, we just want to say, what do we want to say here? So in our mouse box, let's go over here for a second. In this data here, we're just gonna have to add something for so I don't know exactly what we need, but let's just add some stuff and figure it out, right? So I'm thinking, you know, oh, so this has to be a sign value, right? Because it can go negative. So int32 AC 2020 iMalbox, and or I'm gonna say mouse wheel notches, MWN, mouse wheel notches, equals, right, because I'm trying to keep everything to 3 letters. And that's going to equal, well, it's 0 right now. MWN, mouse wheel. Okay. And, whatever smallest increment works for zoom controls. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to make this value. But it's going to be whatever works better for, you know, making our zoom controls, right? So my guess here is that we're going to set this equal to we're going to take this detent, and I think what we're going to do, and I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to guess at this and say divided by wheel delta. Right? Wheel delta current. Detent divided by current, right? So that's my thought on how that's gonna go. Should we really type it like that, or is that just gonna give us horrible pain in the future. Let's not worry about it. I'm worried about it. Just putting that in there so that if we search through the code base, we can find it easier. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but whatever. So yeah, so mouse wheel notches, right? So I'm gonna put a note in here, right? So we're just gonna make a note of this, right? So MWN means, right? See, R if you really want to go that way, right? Okay. So yeah, I think that should be good for getting these notches. I don't know what these notches need to be exactly. And the next thing is, okay, yeah, we got the notches, but how about actually handling it, right? So in our PAINT5D functions, we should have some type of input. I think it's called mouse in. Let's go find that. Yeah, so here's our mouse in. On mouse click, inbounds check, inbounds actions. Okay. It is the inbounds check. Is that, so yeah, we're just gonna say, like, we're not gonna worry about if it's inbounds. We're just always gonna listen to the zoom in, zoom out for now. AAC 2020, PAINT5D, MAU in on mouse scroll, we'll just call it on mouse scroll for now, right? Because we don't really have oops, my bad. It's just this for now, right? And for this function here, we'll just put it up here and say, you know, in32 on mouse scroll takes the mouse variable. It takes, well, it takes the mouse pointer, MAU, and we're gonna guard it. We're gonna guard it and say Let's put this over here. And keep the same format. U32. And we don't really need this to be a U32, right? Really, we could really get away with 8 bits. Let's keep it U32 for now. MS. Ducks. MS for mouse is scrolling. Right? And we're going to guard it over here, right? So if greater than or equal to 1, right? So if the mouse is scrolling, we'll do this like odd mouse kind of stuff, right? And then in the native window code, we're going to say, for this case here, we're going to say, right? And then outside of this case, must be before so sometimes I do kind of weird section names, right? Switch and must be before switch. But what we're going to do is we're going to say this. Mouse scrolling is not scrolling. Mouse not scrolling, right? Is 0, right? Okay, so now that we have that, we need to actually do something with it, right? So in our native window, we got that, right? And then in our PAINT5D functions, we have this kind of thing here. And on mouse scroll, we just want to, also this is wrong, right? We want to use the actual temporary container, right? So, however, this is getting passed in, right? So PAINT5D mouse in is coming from our main function file, right? So let's go into the main function file for a second. And then look for the outer main. Let's go look for this for a second. Mouse in. It's being called from somewhere, I know that. Let's go find it. I thought it should be in this main function file, so I'm a bit confused that I'm not finding it. Oh, PAINT5D mouse in. And this is getting... Oh, hold on. This is in the wrong section. Let me steal this. And right, and right, so is mouse clicking, is mouse scrolling, right? And then this thing here, and I have to set it eventually. And I guess if this is the way we're going to do it, then we might as well keep it the same way. So we're going to say right, so this OMS is on mouse scroll. Make some control F help, right? So if we're trying to look for this, we'll end up inside this function. Or something like that. Okay. Okay, so that in here, the question is, well, where is this getting called from? And I bet this is getting called from our main function file. So let's go look at this. Okay, yeah. So, mouse input here, and then we're setting all these kind of mouse input variables right here, right? So we're just gonna temporarily loading up the container. So mouse.is mouse scrolling equals right, so we're just passing it down. And then also on top of that, we have this thing. Right, so in here, let's call it, we got is, we got down, we got up. We'll call this wheel, and then MWN, right? So we're kind of naming these second parts. We want these second parts to have the exact same name as these parts, right? But then just give it, like, something to make it more unique, right? So wheel, right, for wheel, and then WMN, so... Okay. And we can also, over here, we could indent this and say mouse.pixel. And then over here, this can be mouse.click. Then over here, right, I'm just kind of naming this just so that we can have a better idea of what we're doing, right? Mouse.up is, well, mouse.up, right? And then over here, just a reminder of what the heck we're doing, right? Mouse.dow, mouse.down, right? And over here, we got mouse.is, mouse.is, is in certain state, right? So these categories I just think make it nicer because then over here, right, with this wheel stuff, we can now say mouse.we and say mouse.wheel, right, is what that stands for. And so we kind of like have categorized and we've categorized all these things, right? So, and then also we can look at this, these new things we added, and they are correctly carried down, right? Okay, so now that we know that this is all correctly put in here, we say, is mouse scrolling? So is the mouse scrolling right here? True or false? And if it is scrolling, we're going to go in here, right? We're going to go in here, and then we need to do some stuff, right? So we're going to try to use the keyboard bindings that were used for scroll, right? So in PAINT5D, we have like, let's just go P5D pat, because that's the thing we've been kind of using to find our bearings lately. We have these different character keys, and one of these character keys will be controlling some type of zooming in, zooming out behavior, right? So offset controls, probably not, but there's going to be a section for camera control, right? And we can see that moving the viewport around, zoom camera right here, zoom camera, that's exactly what we need, right? And with this, we're just going to say, oh, it already takes like a value here, right? A negative or a positive. And so when we scroll positively, I think I want that to be a zoom out, actually. So if we look in here and do yeah, so mine needs to be inverted, right? So zooming in, I actually want to be a negative value. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to say, we're going to confirm that's correct, though. So we're going to do, like, open up something of mine. We're just going to open up a random project and make sure that that's the correct zoom behavior that makes sense. So if we just go open up something I did recently. I'm just going to open up something I did recently in OpenSCAD for a second and make sure that... Okay, so when we're going backwards, when we're going negative, we're zooming out. Negative is zooming out, positive is zooming in, it looks like. Yeah, because positive is away from the user. Right? Let's look at that. Mouse wheel Win32. Well, so let's make a mouse wheel Win32 URL. Mouse. So, yeah, this was the one I wanted to look at. So let's go look at this for a second. And rotated forward away from the user. So positive is away from the user. Okay. So positive, when I go positive, I'm zooming in. Positive is zooming in. Negative is zooming out. Okay. Now, is that how my code works, though? Oh, zooming out is negative. Zooming in is positive. Positive. Negative. Zooming in. Okay, nice. So my code doesn't even need to be inverted because that's already how it works. So we're gonna steal this, right? So we're gonna say, we're actually just gonna steal it and say, you know, it's just a zoom camera. And we can keep this, we can name the section exactly the same, right? Because it was exactly the same it's exactly the same code, right? So, well, not exactly the same code, but let's just steal this like this and cut paste for a second. So, instead of this, we're going to say, we're going to take that mouse value right here, mouse wheel notches, and this value can be negative, right? So, So if mouse dot mouse wheel notches is less than 0, negative. Is that how you spell towards? That can't be how you spell towards. Towards? It's probably towards, right? That's probably not how you spell towards either. It's definitely not how you spell user. Toward user. And I can't spell. Not gonna let that stop me. Write code though. And so we're gonna just keep this commentary here because it gives me information as to zooming in, zooming out, and it'll make it easier to if I look for the keyboard stuff for zooming in and out, I'll kind of stumble upon this, and that might be what I want. So toward user was positive, or no, negative was god damn it. Okay, once again. Yeah, towards! Oh, thank you, yes. I don't know how to spell, yeah. Okay, yes, towards. Yes, thank you. How's it going? I'm doing mouse wheel stuff for zooming in and zooming out. Well, I guess I kind of described that in my thing. Very cool, very cool. So I have to actually open up. So I have this thing where I don't know my right from my left, and also turns out I don't know my zoom in from my zoom out. So I have to keep on opening. I should have just kept that file open because I have to keep on reviewing it. So we're gonna open up like a little SCAD folder, SCAD file, and that I was making a few days ago. And we're just gonna have it open for reference because I don't know, I can't okay, so okay, this is positive and it's zooming in, and this is negative. So towards user is negative. Towards user is negative, and it's zooming out. Okay, so towards user is negative and it's zooming out. Okay, so this is positive, and this is away from the user. And towards, yes, towards. I'll we'll just put this in here so that in the future, when people see that I can't spell, we'll know where that came from. Yeah, you were doing doing some type of range mapping stuff. No. Yeah, so let's less than 0, greater than 0, positive. And so we're going to do zoom camera, right? Well, we're going to take this value here, and we're going to use that. We're just going to directly use that. However, that actually makes things kind of like, we're going to do this. Because I love making macros. Mouse wheel notches is what that stands for. So yeah, mouse wheel notches, and then mouse wheel notches, And then instead of this being -1, it's minus mouse wheel notches. Oh, actually, no. That would flip everything, right? Because it can be negative, right? So it's just mouse wheel notches. Right? Because it's your, yeah. So really, we could just, we don't have to be this verbose, right? Like, we could just say zoom, camera, mouse wheel notches, right? We don't need all this. We could just make it a one-liner. But I like to keep it open like this to, if I need some type of changes later, I can put code in this section or in this section. You know, I'm not going to worry about making commentary on that. I'm going to keep this for reference, so that like when we see the same code, we don't like look at it and go like, what the heck? We can be like, oh, MWN is the same command because it's either negative or positive, so it's equivalent to something like this or something like this. Okay, so I think I'm done with having this file open. And I think I have something where now when I start this up, I'll be able to like zoom in and zoom out. Oh yeah, you're right. I was doing bitmap stuff, like resizing content to different image resolutions. Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, what I was doing would be very similar to, like, your, nearest neighbor kind of stuff. Nearest neighbor filter, right? Because I was trying to scale things discreetly. Yeah. Definitely stuff I've done before, right? Because it's like, if you do a lot of graphics, eventually you're going to want to do something like that, right? But yeah, getting it working like, to get it working, you know, 95% correctly is pretty easy, right? You just have a basic formula, right? And the formula is really easy to solve, but then when you have to worry about, you know, truncation versus flooring versus ceiling, all of a sudden it gets a little bit more complicated than you ever thought it should have been. Oh yeah, I understand. I mean, you either have books or tutorials, or you have hands-on. So I mean, a thing that threw me off really hard was the automatic padding that bitmaps do to fit into a multiple of... Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you're actually doing, are you talking about the actual bitmap format, like the .bmp format? Or... Oh, it doesn't let me type that. .bmp... is that what you're talking about? That kind of padding? I think... You know... Yeah, so when I do OpenGL, right, I'm always using powers of 2, and I'm always doing RGBA, which is 4-byte color, so there's probably a lot of issues that I'm not running into that I may otherwise run into, because, yeah, there is, I don't know if OpenGL has some padding, things like that, but I believe bitmap format has some type of padding thing in it. So I'm not sure which of those you're talking about, or if maybe you're talking about something else. But yeah, that can be... Yeah, it's those little things that get you, right? Because you think it's easy, and then it's like, oh, forgot about that. Okay. So we're ready to give this a roll and see if we have a mouse wheel that can zoom in, zoom out. And I have no clue if this is going to work. But I'm hoping that we can get some zoom in, zoom out. And then after that, we're going to try to pan, right? So we're going to we want the, like, right mouse to click to set things down, and then we want the left mouse... Did I say the right mouse? I should just say primary and secondary click, because I don't know my right from my left. So when I say left mouse, primary click, right mouse, secondary click. So primary click, I want to set pixels. Secondary click I want to use for dragging, right? So for panning. Unknown type name, int32. That's easy to fix. So right here, we're going to define int32 right here. And then over here, we're going to undef that. Undef int32. Okay. Nice. And then we might as well align that nicely. Our syntax highlighting is sometimes a little bit glitchy. And also, let's have a console open the whole time, because I don't know why I don't know. There's something about the workflow that makes it a lot nicer when the console is kind of always open. Basically, if a row in the bitmap is like, say, 3 pixels, then that's 3 bytes per pixel for RGB, so overall 9 bytes in a row. But since that isn't a multiple of 4 bytes, 3 more empty bytes get stuck on the end, so a row is 12 bytes long. Okay. So I got you. Okay, I got you. So it's so it actually wants multiples of... It wants the byte stride to be 12... Well, in your example, it wants the byte stride to be 12 bytes long because it wants that byte stride to be a multiple of 4 bytes, and that's probably for memory access patterns, right? Because on a 32-bit machine, right? We're not on a 32-bit machine anymore, but on 32-bit architecture, to reduce the amount of cycles for memory access, you want everything to fit into the word size of the machine. So that's probably why they do that. But then that gets really confusing, right? Because it's like, because then your stride, yeah, that gets confusing because then your data stride is not the same thing as your, so I'm just making up these words, but like, so this now when you have that kind of padding, all of a sudden stride doesn't always mean what you think it means, right? Because for index to xy, right? So if we want to take index to xy, right? It's usually like y position times component stride, right? Plus x pos, right? So right? So if I had to deal with that, right, then we would have some problems, right? Because this component stride, right, we need to stride without that kind of stuff, right, to do this index to xy, and this would be the indexed no padding thing, right? So, yeah, that would get so confusing, right? That would make my formulas, like, that adds another level of complexity to these kind of formulas, right? Because usually, yeah, I can totally see how that would throw you off. That would make me want to flip a table. I just, yeah. Okay, unknown type, I32. I thought we just fixed that. Oh, it's in our GenoWin. So in our window code here, this is like old code. It is old code that is a little bit uglier than some of our newer code because we just wrote it a long time ago. And our style of code just kind of changes over time. And so some of our code just looks a lot different or more ugly because we didn't come up with a very structured way of doing things. Like, as we have progressed with our code, we've come up with more and more structured ways to do things. And so everything has gotten more, like, rigid and structured as I've gone by, right? So before I was making 4 letters for macros a long time ago, and then I decided 3 letters makes more sense. So anyways, down here, int32, all the way down here, we're going to just undef int32. And let's make a little checksum here, right? Let's make sure that we have... I am kind of, like, militant on this, but the purpose of making these checksums is because if we forget to undefine macros, it could lead us to a lot of compiler issues, a lot of compile time issues that I really don't want to end up having trouble with. Okay, so we got this open already, right? So we can just clear this. And let's kind of zoom in here. Oh, that's why I like this, because we can zoom in now and make something that... I try to make it so that my screen is zoomed in enough so that even if you're looking on a... even if you're, like, not full screening my stream, you can kind of see what I'm doing, right? No member named. Oh yeah, well that's true. And that is in PAINT5D. So let's go look for that for a second. Reload it, yep. And... oh, yeah. Oh, hold on. This is just me forgetting that I'm not using this variable. Might want to make a note that mouse dot oh, you know what? Wheel, mouse, wheel notches. Right, I just want to make a note of that. And yeah, so this is wrong here. So we're going to take this. Well, now it's not really taking up that much space, so we might just want to say this. Right, and we don't even need this. And then... did we actually add that, though? Yeah, mouse wheel notches. We added it here, however, we have a temporary object. Right, this is a... this mouse object. I'm not sure exactly where we declared that. Moutemp. Yeah, Moutemp. So we created a thing called Moutemp for mouse wheel temporary. And we need to open that up as well. God, we have so much stuff open. Right, so this thing we didn't change yet. So it's like it's the same exact stuff as this, but it's just a version that's a temporary container that we can pass around. So I like most of my data to be static, or like file scope static data, right? Make it kind of very rigid. And then if we need to pass around data in a more flexible way, we make kind of temporary containers that we fill with data that needs to be passed around. And I'm just doing that because trying to reduce mental indirection and also write the code in a way where I can kind of get a feel for what's going on without debugging, right? So right here, oh god. So U32 is mouse scrolling, right? So MS, mouse scrolling. We'll just say mouse scrolling because we're out of room. And that maps to this value right here, right? So these are the values in iMouseBox that these values map to, right? And then also in iMouseBox, we have one other thing for this, right? For this thing here. And so we're going to make like a mouse wheel section in here as well, right? So we're just gonna, let's just steal this for a second. And let's go in here like this. And then let's MDUM mouse wheel notches, and then in 32, right? So wheel namespace, a little variable namespace. Am I good? What? I'm alive. Are you hearing some kind of weird noises or something? I'm in the basement, so you may hear like weird kind of like oh yeah, I don't think I may have almost spilled it, but I didn't spill it. I may have almost though. There's like a crash. Yeah, like this, maybe? Or like, maybe this? Or they could be doing something crazy upstairs. They could be doing stuff crazy upstairs. Luckily, yeah, maybe like that. Okay, yeah, that's probably my drink. I have 2 drinks over here. Yeah, like, yeah, I got water and then I got, like, hot chocolate. This is, like, technically, hot cocoa does have a little bit of caffeine in it. But it's like, I'm tapering down. I'm tapering down from Monday, right? Monday was caffeine day, so I'm kind of tapering down from that. No, yeah, they get really bad when they argue, like no one's ever hit anyone, but man, they argue so loud. It's like I'm just wondering like when it's gonna evolve into physical violence, and I think that's why I don't. I think that's why I have a cool head, right? Like, I hate to say this, but I think that there's this cycle where like bad parents make children who end up being good parents, and then those good parents make children that end up being bad parents, and so on and so on and so on, right? Because since I grew up around people who yell all the time, I don't yell, right? And so if I had kids, I wouldn't yell around them, and then they wouldn't experience how horrible it is to have people yelling around them, right? So then when those kids grow up to be parents, they would yell at their kids because they never experienced how bad that was, right? There's like a, not to get too political, but it's kind of related to that saying that I think Lauren Southern has about like, a little political, a little sexist, but like, what does she say? Weak men make for bad times, and then bad times make for strong men, and then strong men make for good times, and good times make for weak men, and good times make good times make for weak men, and then weak men makes for bad times, etc., etc., etc. So I think that there is like a cycle, right? Like all like any stable system needs to any stable system needs to oscillate, right? So it may seem kind of like chaotic, like bouncing like that, but right, if a system is stable, right, it either has to be exactly something over time, which it's very hard for something to stay exactly one way. So usually any stable system needs to oscillate, right? So I don't know. That's a weird way to connect politics with like science, but yeah, I think it makes sense. But yeah, it's one of those things where I probably like should keep my mouth shut, because I'm gonna get myself in trouble. I'm gonna get myself in like horrible trouble one of these days. But like I'll have to be much more popular before I think the stuff I say gets me in like some type of trouble. I think, which I am worried about. I am worried that I'm gonna say something that I think is just factual one day, where I'm gonna say something that I don't even think is political one day, and I'm gonna get in trouble, right? Because it's probably not gonna be something that I think is dangerous, right? Like I think when people shoot themselves in the foot, they're just kind of like, yeah, get canceled. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, this is not Go Ling, so we don't. Yeah. Yeah. This. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes. So this is not Golang. So I used to code in Go, and you could specify default values within the definition of a struct. You can't do that in C code, so I almost did that. Okay. So let's give this another shot, see if we can... I don't know if I'm missing anything. So is mouse scrolling, and then the wheel mouse notches, right? And then also up here we gotta do this, right? So we gotta define... Yeah, it's, I don't know, what do you call it? It's like, you wanna stay away from politics because it's a waste of time. Where it's like, I mean, it's like you wanna I wanna spend most of my brain power thinking about, engine design and programming. I wanna spend all my brain power doing that. But then you get sucked into politics because it's like, you need to know how to not get yourself in trouble, right? So you're kind of forced to keep up with that kind of stuff, so you know when you're saying something politically dangerous, right? So it kind of sucks because you just want to be you just want to program and say stuff, but then you have to also keep on you also have to keep track of who's getting politically crucified and not make their mistakes, So you have to keep track of politics. PAINT5D, error control reaches end of non-void function. And that's in PAINT5D.f. So let's go look at PAINT5D.f over here, reload this, and go to 2452. And see where we screwed up this. Oh yeah, because we decided that all of our functions were going to, like, return integers for some reason. I don't know why. I just thought that having some type of return type would be a good idea. So... okay, yeah, so here's the moment of truth. So we're going to go over here, we're going to press this button, we're going to go P for pattern, and then we're going to go through the pattern, right? And we're going to go up to the pattern we like, and then we're going to kind of... ooh, oh my god, whoa. Okay, so first of all, it zoomed in too much, and also we have a bug in our code where it allows us to zoom in further than we should. So we're going to, first of all, we have to cap the zoom at the maximum zoom level, which right now it's, I don't know why, that zoom was too much, though. I think that zoom was way too extreme. So, how about before we Before we go bug hunting, let's just change this mouse wheel notches thing, right? So we're not going to scale it here. We're going to scale it in the actual Win32 code. So I don't know what the decent value for what these need to be is, but I know that whatever the hell this is, this delta is, whatever this value is, it's too much. So we're just going to dampen it a bit. And so we know it's like, let's just halve it by, I'm going to try like 1/4. Dampen mouse wheel. Right? And my mouse wheel code is probably a complete hack, because it's not like I didn't read the documentation. I read the documentation. I read an article by Raymond Chen about the mouse wheel, but still, sometimes when you read stuff, you still don't know what the hell you're reading. So, so I'm not like completely kind of like just doing stuff and not knowing what I'm doing here. Okay, so if we do this, we get nothing. So I'm guessing division by 4 is truncating it to 0. So I think what might be happening is the signals might be coming in too fast, right? So let's just recreate the problem of zooming in way too far. Or actually, let's zoom out this time, right? We're already zoomed out, but let's just zoom out. And then also, maybe the problem is that, okay, so P for pattern. Find a pattern we can zoom into, and just careful. Ah! Okay, so it seems like we do one notch, and then it just goes, it just keeps on going. Like it, oh, you know what it is? It's, so in here, this window message handler thing might only happen when there's a window message, right? So when a window message isn't happening and the window's still going, it probably doesn't stop this case of the mouse wheel going here. So we might want to look where this is coming from and change that around. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna hack this together. We're just going to say, and we need some type of tick function, tick value. We need some type of incrementing ticker thing that can tell us when this whole object has expired somehow, because yeah, so in order to do that in our main function file, we need like a let's find in files. Let's look for this word everywhere in this code base really quick and see what we can find. Loop tick. So we have like a loop tick. Oh god. Oh god, no. Just. So we have a loop tick function. Completed loop ticks. So we definitely have an idea of a thing called a loop tick. But we need some type of tick. So I think we need some type of thing where it's like we need like tick equals, you know, AAC 2020 for now, let's just keep let's keep one ticker, right? So there's there's I time somewhere, right? And I time is some type of ticker value, and we want let's go find I time for a second. I time, right? We made this uniform, right? So find in files I time. What we're going to look for is after we find this, we're going to probably separate iTime into its own library. And it's just going to be a library that's just meant to keep track of the game time, right? So CPU uniform iTime, right? Yeah, so this value right here is keeping track of iTime. And I think that we want some type of ticker time that this is bound to, right? So I think we want something that comes before CPU uniforms that that manipulates this. So right now, if we look at iTime, so we want to change this to be instead of this, we want it to be something like this. We want it to be, so every time we're adding, every increment we're adding this right here. So what we really want is we want iTime, iTime equals AAC 2020 game time. And we're going to take the game time, and we just want to, we're going to keep game time as just an integer that kind of goes up, kind of 1, like that. And so we just want to take game time and divide it by 256. And we'll make this a float 32, right? So we'll cast this to float 32. And so yeah, we'll cast this to a float 32 first. And then after it's casted to a float 32, then we will divide it by this. And this will be the new formula, right? We'll have to make a thing for this. So the video is 1:55. And the time is 1 hour, 29 minutes, and let's say 13 seconds, because we like lucky numbers. Okay. Right, so at this time we made this new formula, and all we're doing is instead of incrementally adding 1 in this thing here, we're going to take the game time and divide by 256, right? So that means we need to make a library for this, and so now we're kind of like all over the place. But I think it's what needs to be done. So it is it's 5. So at 6. Okay, actually, we need to get this done quickly, because we're running out of time here. So let's go. First of all, let's go add this where it needs to be. So we're gonna start breaking our code quite a lot here, but in the main function file, we're kind of doing this main loop here, right? This main loop. And so the main loop should be, this is probably our main loop right here, right? Main void, cross-check header. So this is not the main loop. Oh, right here. While the window is still open, why is that indentation complete crap? Oh, because the commentaries are... The commentaries should be... Okay, let's not worry too much about it. But yeah, while the window is still open... while the window is open... We're just going to say... we're going to add too many parentheses. Because I like parentheses for some reason. Right, but yeah, game time plus plus, right? Right here. And then we also need a library that holds the game time. And then we can use that game time to look and see if... or actually, game time... Sorry. Dot... gam tick. Game time... Game tick, right? So the game tick, right? So dot gam tick plus plus. And then what we can do here is in the... Where we're setting... So this thing needs to be dot gam tick. Where we're in this code here, right? This will be game time dot game tick, right? So this tick value is going to be based on the game tick. And actually, we should just call this gam tick, right? So gam tick. So iMouseBox game tick is the same thing as the game time game tick. And do we really need this to be an instance? I don't think we need this to be an instance. We only want... We're never going to have more than one instance, so let's not do that. Let's not make it a dot game tick. Let's make it underscore game tick. And then let's just say... So when we have this, like here, when we set it here, and we also set this here, right? We set this at the beginning, and then we set this. This makes it so that if we have this correct, you know, when the while window is still open, we're hoping that we can know when this object, we can know when the mouse object has expired, right? Because we have this tick value, right? So in iMouseBox right here, in this thing, game tick. So make it a... I don't know if we want to make it an int32 or not. Maybe an int32 so we can reverse and go negative if we really want to, which would be kind of weird, but kind of makes sense. Also, we can... Now, let's make it a U32 so that... Because eventually this ticker could overflow. Well, probably not, because it takes a long time for something to overflow like that when we're going one by one. But yeah, let's keep this as game tick. And set equal to right, so we can use this to know when this object has expired, right? That's the whole idea of why we're going to use this. uint32, and we'll set it to 0 initially. And then we're going to make... we might as well start kind of like, you know, sectioning this off and say... misc I'm just going to call this misc mouse vars. It's most of it, but I don't really know what to label this section. But since I'm labeling all of the other sections, I might as well label this section as well, right? Just for consistency of the indentation. My style requires that I label this section if I'm going to label these sections and these sections, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we have this game tick, and we're going to create that, right? So we're going to go. We'll make it a U32, right? And then, game tick. So it's like a clock value, right? That's basically what that is. And it's just gonna be it's just gonna be a place to store. It's just gonna be a centralized place to store the time for the game, right? So it's kind of not really much of a system, but we want to categorize it as a system in our code. So okay, game tick. And there's our variable for that, and we're just going to call this, and this is called gamtick, right? So gamtick.gam, this is basically gamtick.gamtick, right? It's just there's just the, there's a 7-letter way to say it, and then there's the other 7-letter way to say it, right? Which is also in a grouping of 3s, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, versus 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? So this kind of grouping, 7 and 7, right? So that's the reason I kind of do things the way I do them. And our syntax highlighting isn't going to like that. Let's just change it then. Let's, okay. So let's just call this gam tick, right? Gam tick, right? Because 7 letters. Dot data dot underscore. And then, gam tick. Game ticker. Global game time value, right? There's a global game time value. And then also we need a gamtick dot f. Only very. So this is just going to be a data-only sublier, but we have to also make an init none function. Init, paste init none function. Okay. And then over here, we're just going to call this gamtick. Okay. Gamtick.f.underscore. And then also in the silence system, God, we have too much stuff open. Silence. It's like I'm just trying to make some mouse zooming in with a wheel. Is this so hard? I guess it is. In the data here, we need to figure out where to put this. But before we know where to put this, we have to figure out, well, where are we going to put this in our, where are we going to put it in our list of modules here, or our list of sublibraries? And so we know that this CPU uniform info stuff right here. We know that game tick, that this needs to know about game tick. And you know what else needs to know about game tick? The window loop. The window loop needs to know about game tick as well. Or the window code needs to know about game tick, right? So game tick is a very rudimentary, there's nothing really complicated about it as far as I'm concerned. So I think that it goes right here because it's like one variable, and like a lot of different things could need to know about it. So I think that right here makes the most sense. So this is where I think it belongs. So that's where we're gonna put it. So game tick. Right, so game tick is game time, right? That's basically what that is. And now we're just, so we know it comes after to-do man, right? So we can go in here and we can say, oh, the thing right after to-do man, oh, that's going to be, oh, that is going to be the game tick, right? So we can say right here, we can do that, right? We can say, hey, this is game tick. Or gam tick, sorry, gam tick, right? We could say game tick, right? We could have said game tick. Yeah, but that looks kind of like gametic. We could have called it that, but we didn't. So we called it gam tick for game tick. So I might want to make some control F help, right? So, let's make some control F help in here for, like, if we're trying to look through this code base. Because I see a potential problem. I see a potential where at some point in time we might search for gam tick rather than game tick, and we might lose ourselves, right? So in order to prevent that in the future, we're going to say right here, we're just going to say game tick is gam tick, right? If you say game tick like that, same thing, gam tick. If you say gam tick, that's also wrong. Right. Not the library you were looking for. Right. Let's say 42, because we want to be cool. 43, 42. Right, so not the library you're looking for, but the library you needed, right? So in case we screw this up and do any of this nonsense, we'll be able to find what we were actually looking for, which is gam tick, right? So then right over here, we can just duplicate this line. We can turn this on, sure, it's not really going to do us much. And then right here, we'll replace that with gam tick, right? And in here, doesn't talk, right? So this gets a star, because this system does not talk, right? It's just a system that just stores a variable. It doesn't do any talking, right? So we'll just make it a star. Okay, so now that we have that kind of stubbed in there, we still need to fix this, right? So let's just put an X here for now, until we're ready to do that. And I think actually we might be ready to do that right now, but let's go look at this for a second. Gam tick, init none, and then this code, blah, blah, blah. So in F macros, we also have to add that. So open and look at F macros, top and bottom. And in the top file, we need to go find the list of init none. So init none's here. And we know that silence is right here. And then kill test, reentrant, to-do man. So right here. Before file boy, after to-do man, we have gam tick, right? And I'm kind of sick of just replacing this stuff, so here's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna regenerate this. We're just gonna do this because it's gonna be faster. We're gonna look for gam tick, and we're gonna go do this. Right? We're gonna go right. So the orange thing is what we need to do, and it's between these two blue things, right? So we can just take this code, copy it, and then we can paste it down here, and then we can color this to orange. And so now we see this orange stuff, we just need to change that to gam tick, right? So, gam tick. And I don't know if this is faster or slower, but arguably it is faster because our list is getting very big, right? So, we inserted it in the auto generator where it belongs, and then we manually created it, which is kind of a risky way to go, but I'm fairly certain that I have done this correctly, right? The downside of doing it this way is if we screw this up, right? If we screw this up, and we manually made this list, and then we use our auto generator, and our auto generator does not match up with this, right? We delete all this stuff and we auto generate from this data, and then our code crashes because we manually edited this code here. So that's dangerous, but I think that I know what I'm doing, so I'll be fine. Okay, so then I think that's the only thing we need to do for here. I'm not going to update this list because I'm sick of updating that list. And then in here, we've merged the init and init none sections together so that we have this like master list where everything just is much nicer. So let's just start moving this around, right? So gamtick is the new system 5, right? So go in here and then paste that down, and then change our... Actually, that's correct. Right. So now we got 43 systems, right? And gamtick is this, you know, 5th system right here, right? And then over here, that means this 43, right? We need to compile up to system number 43 now. And now let's go look for this thing here, right? So, to-do man, we want to duplicate to-do man, and we want to create gamtick. And this is the new 5, right? So this is the new 5 right here. So we just want to take everything and move that up. Right, and then we're going to name this 43, right? So this is 43 now. And we got the gamtick here. To-do man, gamtick, and file boy, right? So if we're looking at this, we got to-do man, we got gamtick, we got file boy. Right? So we got to-do man, gamtick, and we got file boy. So also I realized that in our fmacros top, we're going to have to change some things. So let's go look at fmacros top for a second. And we've shifted everything over. So all these things are getting shifted, right? So CPU uniforms, for example, is now 20, right? So these little spot checks need to be changed. So this is a 20, right? This is now a 21. And we only shifted over by 1, so everything should just be shifted over by 1 like that. Tau sync is 41 now. Yep. And... okay, yeah, I think we're good. Okay. So now we have to update... we have to update the libchan, right? So let's go open up libchan. Let's look at the top file first. And the first thing we need to update is we now have 43 systems. Okay, we have 43 systems here. And also we need to open up the function file as well, right? So we gotta go... I think I already have the functions file open, but let's just make sure that's open. Well, while we're here, we're all over the place, but let's just do it, right? So So this game, it would actually make more sense to kind of change my mind on this. But wouldn't it make more sense that if we have all these loop ticks, right, this game tick here, I think it would just make sense to I think it would make more sense to call it from here, right? From a loop tick function. Right? So, AAC 2020, gam tick, loop tick. Right? And then over here, right? Alright, so we're updating the game tick here, right? And then in gam tick, in the functions, update game time loop ticker, right? Update the game time loop ticker, because that's basically what this thing is. So let's kind of name that accordingly, right? So we can just steal this from here, paste it in there, and we can also steal from here, right? So we know that the code we wanted for this was this, right? So in game tick functions, we want to do this, right? So and the only reason we're writing it this way is so that it's more uniform with the... It's more uniform and regular with the code we've already written. So, gam tick, game tick, plus plus. Here's our loop tick function. This takes a void. And now that we have this loop tick function, we need to make sure that that is accounted for. So we've done this game tick thing here, and we have the game tick loop tick right here for the control F help, and then we also have it here, right, this loop tick function here. But we also need the init nuns, right? So we have up at the very top here, between to-do man and file boy, right? So to-do man and file boy, duplicate that, and to-do man and file boy. So duplicate this. Oops, Control Z. And the second one we want to name to gam tick, right? So we want to take gam tick from over here. I want to place that in there. Okay, and it's still an init none function, so that's good. And then we want to take our numbers and paste them like that. All right, so this is 9 now, and we can make sure that's correct. 9 is native key, correct. And then we can take the same checksum from right here, and we can just copy paste it. So bam. And now we have to-do man and game tick, and we have the reentrant, sorry. Right, so now all those colors are correct. And we also need to go back into F macros because we kind of screwed up that, right? So in the top file and the bottom file, so F macros, this loop tick, right? We have a new loop tick, so let's go duplicate this. And we have a thing at the very top, which is gam tick, right? So game time ticker, right? So global game time ticker. We can close this. That's the only thing we needed to edit there because we already have GamTick in here. And then over here, in the top file, we need our loop ticks, right? So here's our loop tick code. So we don't have any auto-generating code for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to steal this and we're going to paste it. And it's this one right here. We're just going to call this GamTick. And do we really want to just keep this kind of like extra checksum thing on all this stuff because it's kind of annoying? Sure, why not for now? I just like the extra redundancy, the security it kind of offers. So, right, and I also know 5 and 20, so I know that this comes before that, right? That's also helpful. So now we can color code this one more time, and we can make sure that these are two different colors, these two sections here. But yeah, so we got the GamTick function, the F macro. So in libchan top, right, so we now have 43 systems rather than 42. And unfortunately, this is going to be very annoying because GamTick is the 5th system, right? So that means we need to look for 4, and we got to slide everything up. So this sucks, but we're going to just take... so to-do man, we'll actually make that orange, make it easier to look for. Okay, and we need to get this compiling so that I can work on some blueprints for some other stuff. But yeah, so this is going to be GamTick now, right? Because after to-do man comes GamTick. GamTick. And instead of 4s, this is 5, right? So to-do man is still 4, but everything else gets split up, right? So 5, 5, and this is just gonna suck. Because we have to... Right, so it's nice when... It's not a big problem when we insert near the end of the list, but when we have to insert at the very beginning of these lists of systems, it's not fun. It's like a thing that it's like, man, why am I doing it this way? It's kind of what you think, right? But the thing is, I just want some assurance about how the system fits together. And so that's why I do it this way. So we're just going to bite the bullet, and hopefully, you know, what I'm hoping is that eventually things will stabilize near the beginning of that chain, and we'll never have to add things so far up there, right? That everything will be added somewhere later, right? Because what would really suck is, say, let's say this code base gets really big and we end up with like 1,000 different systems. And then we're like, hey, we got this one system that it really logically belongs at the beginning of the list. And so then we have to do this little refactor 1,000 times. We got to do this click, click 1,000 times because we've inserted so far in the beginning of the list of systems. So we're hoping we don't have to ever do that. But the thing is, if we have to end up doing that, we'll do it. Because we want everything in a very definite order. And we want it in the most logical order as well. So that is why everything is kind of put here like it is. So 29 becomes 30. Okay. And then 30 is 31. Right, everything gets 1 added to it. And we're not done once we get through here, right? We're only halfway done, right? Because we have the other system. We have the, well, not the other system, but we have the, these are the data files for everything, and then we have the function files. Okay. That's wrong. Oh god, when did we start screwing this up? 37, 38, 39... is Tau Depot 39. Let's go look at 39. 39 is Tau Depot. So 39 is Tau Depot, so this is a 39. And then 40 is Tau type. 40 is Tau type? Yes. 40 is tau type. There's a 40. Okay. 41 is tau sync. Okay. 42 for PAINT5D. And then P5D OGL is 43 now. Okay, cool. So now we're going to painstakingly go through the next system. And then we need to get code ready for cutting on the laser cutter. So right here, to-do-man. I'm going to take to-do-man. To-do-man is still number 4. We're going to copy this, paste it, and this code here needs to be 5, right? Because this is not to-do-man anymore, this is game tick. So game tick. Okay? This is a game ticker, a global game ticker. So iTime is directly linked to the game tick. Alright, game tick is 5. Okay. Let's color that. And then this is 6. And once again, just painstakingly going through here and changing everything. 8 is hard ass. Yep. 9 is that native key. We're just going to assume that we're right. If we think that we have screwed up while we're transcribing, we'll double check, but so frag bet is at 23, yep. So we're just spot checking as we go. Yeah, so this aspect of the system does not scale well, unfortunately. Okay, so since this takes two hands on the keyboard for these numbers, for me, let's just make sure that 30 is that, right? So 30 is this system, that's good. And then a 31, 32, 33, 33, 34, 35, 35, 36, also, I thought, when we're clicking and dragging, we want to be able to change the mouse cursor when we are doing that, right? So I actually want the shader code to be aware that I am dragging, so that we can change the icon, so we can make like an icon in the shader code. Okay, so we've stubbed in all these systems, and now is the time to see if everything compiles or what we've broken, because I'm kind of scared. We moved a lot of stuff around. Once we get this compiling, we're going to have to unknown type name U32. So we got some simple mistakes. So define U32, simple mistakes. Undef U32. Okay. Simple mistake, and then also make sure in GameTick functions. So GameTick functions, do we have the same mistake? Doesn't look like we do. Actually, this is... LoopTick actually is supposed to take a U32 called U32, right? And then we just want to return and so reserved for future use. For example, maybe if we want to pause the game, maybe the loops are still running, but we just say that, you know, if we bring in a variable here for pausing, I don't know, or probably not, probably have a paused state, and then if the paused state is paused, we don't increment this counter, and then everything kind of stands still, is what we would hope for, right? What do we got here? U32, oh, because I wrote this backwards, right? The type is U32, the variable is U32. And then I gotta measure some scrap material. I gotta measure some scrap material for AAC game time, game tick. Well, it's not game time, game tick. So it's game tick, right? It's the game tick, game tick. Game time. Game time does kind of like make more sense. But the idea is that it's only storing. For now, it's only storing the game tick, right? So let's not make a thing called game time, even though game time might have made more sense. But we want to make it more obvious that the time is the actual data type of the game time is it's just a ticker, right? It's just an integer ticker that's going up every single frame, and we don't want to. Game time is a little bit more abstract of a name than game tick, and we're doing data-oriented design. We want to know what the actual data looks like, right? So we want to code in a way that does not encapsulate, right? We want to, a lot of the encapsulation stuff that we would be doing in other code, we actually want to avoid. So this thing is somewhere else. Where is this? Gina Win F. So as we were coding this, we kind of like... So we can make a note of this as well. So AAC 2020 game. So this is wrong, because it's called game tick. So not right. So yes, it's game tick, but it's not game time, right? And I think it did the same thing, gametime.gametick. And this is in CPU uniform stuff. So in CPU uniform function, I changed this. So this is... Let's make a note of this, right? And so what we thought we were doing was this, but this is actually game tick, like that, .gametick. So gametick.gametick, right? Or gamtick.gamtick. whatever you want to call it. And okay. So that's undeclared. So in this section where we have all this stuff, we're just going to say, you know, undef F32 right here. And then we'll define it up top. And I see we didn't make any checksums for this. Define F32 as float, right? So I think if we just do this, float, right? So we don't have any special header for that as far as I know. And now it's just like, hey, let's get this working. Static assert failed. 41, include PAINT5D. And that is in fmacros top. So let's go look at fmacros top. Oh yeah, so tau sync is 41, but tau sync is 41, but PAINT5D is 42. So we just missed one of those. Not too bad though. So this is I like the extra redundancy because the amount of little tiny changes we made to like overhaul this was quite significant. So tail order, this is in fmacros bottom, right? I'm looking at this and I can't even see where it is. libchan bot. Yeah, oh, so yeah. So we had libchan top, but in libchan bot, I totally forgot to work with this, right? So we have the redundancy. The redundancies are so that, you know, I have redundancies so that I absolutely am certain that I refactor this correctly, because we can't really write test code for this, right? So we need to have these redundancies in place so that, right, gamtick, and it's not this, tail order file. Out of order, but it said tail order file, so it's not coming from this, it's coming from this thing here. Tail order file, yes, it's coming from here. And so right after this to-do manager thing here, right here, we need to make an insertion, right? So we're going to copy this, make an insertion. Yeah, this is why it's like, this is ridiculous, but this is the way we've been rolling. So right here, we're going to call this gamtick for gametick. And gametick is system number 5, right? So we need to, we're just going to XX this. And we're going to select all of this. Right? And then we're going to go all the way up to this XX. And we're going to go Control V. Right, so all the numbers are in the correct spot now. However, we have to make this a 43 now. Okay. So now we have to-do man and we have gametick, and all these orders should be correct. And then we have undef, and right after to-do man, we want to undef the gametick. And we also want to move all these numbers up. So we want to move these numbers up. We're going to call this 43. Okay. So now that we have that, I think that our library chain will be correct. We'll find out very soon. But yeah, we just have all these redundancies because we mucked around in a lot of stuff, right? So it's like we mucked around in a lot of stuff that has no tests. There's no way we can test these kind of macros. So we could say that the redundancy effectively is our test to make sure that everything's put together properly. We could say that. Okay, so we got this. And I still don't think we've fixed the zoom wheel thing, but we have the parts in place to do it, right? So what we're going to do is we have the ability to say that the mouse object has expired, right? So because we set the game tick within it. So this variable here needs to be able to have the game tick in it, right? So game tick. And the mouse wheel knows about the game tick, right? So U32 gam tick set to AAC 2020 gam tick. Right, so this is going to be set to this value here, right? And we have some room. I don't know if we have enough room for this, but let's try. And we really just want to give it the same kind of right? We want to just name it the exact same, right? It's very much a parallel data structure where it has the exact same. It has the exact same stuff, but it's the temporary container used to pass things around, right? Which you may say that's like why you're duplicating effort. Why are you duplicating effort like this? It's because I don't want a singleton, right? So if it's going to be a singleton, I want it to be just a whole bunch of static loose variables at the file scope. So I don't want that kind of singleton thing, right? And then also, if we ever want to plug in different values for certain things that take this kind of mouse stuff, we don't have to directly copy from here. So most of the time we're going to directly copy from here, put this into a temporary container, and give that temporary container to something. But there are some cases where we might not want to do that. When we want to emulate something or do something else, like maybe we want to have a demo state in our game, right? And so, because it's a demo state, we have like a controller that injects mouse events and game time values to repeat some type of auto-generated video over and over again. Like in old school video games, in old school like 16-bit, 32-bit consoles, right? They would have little demos, right? So this would be a way to help facilitate that sort of thing, right? Wheel mouse notches. I'm going to make a note of that shortcut. So, wheel mouse notches. Wheel mouse notches. Mouse notches. Mouse notches. Mouse notches. Notches. So in my shortcuts, I just want to make a note of that because that variable is kind of weird. So I'm just going to make a note of it. So WM MWM wheel mouse notches. And and also I see a mistake. I keep on want to spelling it this way, like wheel mouse notches, right? Wheel mouse watches, mouse wheel not. You mean mouse so mouse wheel notches. Yeah, so I keep on accidentally doing this. That may get me in trouble. That's why I try not to name things like that, because mouse wheel notches. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing we want to do here is we want to stop this from happening. And so in the main function file, I think, I don't know exactly where we want this. It could go in a lot of places. I don't know where we want the guard. Because we could put it in a lot of places. Let's close this. Let's close this. Let's close this. So the game tick here is being set here. So that's the... Yeah, okay, that's fine. And we're actually going to guard the entire mouse in, I think. So we can get rid of the no-op because we don't need that anymore. And we're just going to say that, you know, if... Right, so we have a game tick, right? So I'm going to do it like that so that I can make sure that I want to make absolutely sure I'm not going to accidentally assign things. And game tick dot game tick. Do nothing. Object is expired. Else. Right? So if we're off by 1 with this, right, there's the possibility we're going to be off by 1, and then we're not going to get any mouse events at all, right? So that'll be kind of obvious, because the mouse that was kind of like just super scrolling is just all of a sudden just not going to do anything at all, right? That'll be very obvious if we're like off by 1, and then we'll have to figure out how to fix that. So let's go over here. Let's go P for pattern, and let's try to zoom in. So we got nothing, right? So we got nothing because we're not exactly equal, right? So at the time this message is getting processed, we're too late, right? So in order to fix that, right, we're out of step. So to fix that, we want to go into our functions file, and it's not our function file. We want to go into the function file, and it's not this, but it's so right, so while the window is still open, we're doing these ticks. And that window code is happening on a different thread, so... Hey. So, what we might want to do is, instead of a game tick, don't... So, the window code might not sync with events. So, I don't think I want to do it this way. So, let's make a note of this. And... yeah, let's make a note of this. And we're going to change around how we're doing this. So, instead of doing it this way, we're going to just say, this is the mouse input function, right? It's PAINT5D mouse input. So, we're going to say that, if mouse dot, is... how about used up? Sure, why not? Used, expired? I don't know. Is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? 7 letters? I'll go with it. Because it's 7 letters, and I'm picky about that. Right, if that's greater than or equal to 1... okay. Else, otherwise, object flagged as expired. Okay. Do not use it. Okay. And then what we're going to do is this expired value, in our window code here, we're going to say, oh, I see. Mouse scrolling is reset here. Mouse not scrolling. Object is expired. Actually, we don't want to set it here, because we want to set it if, So exp for expired, and we could set it to this here, and then like we could have all these cases, right, that could flag it as not expired, but holy crap, that's a lot to manage, right? So we're not going to set it here. Don't set here. So we're going to make a note here that don't set this here. And what we're going to do instead is in our mouse code, right? We have mouse code, right? We have mouse input code. Handle input mouse. If always mark object as not expired before processing. That's not quite right, is it? The I keep on changing my mind here. But yeah, we're going to expire it here. And I changed my mind. So the mouse object is going to be valid again here. We're going to expire it after we process all the mouse stuff here. We're going to flag it as so mao.exp mouse.expired, right? And mao dot so really we could avoid all these calls, right? If it's all expired, right? So is expired, right? Which is different than it is in a certain state. Is it expired? And then in iMouseBox over here, right, has this thing expired, right? Has the entire thing expired is what we're trying to say there. We're trying to flag the whole thing as invalid. This was an attempt to flag it as invalid, and now we're like, you know what, that's not quite right. And so in here, what we really could do is we could ignore all this stuff if we really wanted to. But there may be some reasons why we don't want to, right? So don't do this. There may be reasons an update function does not care that the object is expired, like using the last known valid state of the mouse cursor to keep rendering an icon in a given position. Right? So we're going to not do this because there could be a reason for why we don't want to bail out at this level. So we're going to mark this at the top and say, you know, don't do this, right? And there's a reason why we decided not to do this. And then we can also make a note of the time, right? So at vid IID 0155, and the time is 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 32 seconds. Okay. So now that we have that in there, we have this expired value. If it's greater than or equal to 1, that's bad. Okay, it's great. If it's true, don't return, right? And this expired value is set here, is expired, right? Which is in the data as, oh, my bad, expired, not is expired. Oh, no, because this is in the temp thing. We now want to have, like, an is expired value, right? So U32 is expired, right? EXP for expired. And that's set to iMouseBox EXP for expired. So is expired is set there. And then within our code here, that might be all we need, right? It's reset here. We're not scrolling. Yeah, I think that might be good. Let's try that out. Also, did we accidentally guard this with that game time thing? No, we changed that already, so if it's greater than or equal to 1, then we're not going to do this. And so we know that if we don't get any mouse wheel interaction, we do know that it's because of our flag variables, right? So so we still can be certain that, you know, if things go wrong, oh, and we're not calling it expired, right? So we decided that in iMouseBox, or iMouseTemp, we're calling it is expired, right? So is expired, because the reason why we're calling it is expired is because it lines up better with the format of everything else. So we can make a note of that, right? We can say, Mao. Right, we can make a note of that. So like, right, so that's what we meant by is expired. And then after this, I have to start working on some blueprints really quickly. But we want to just see if we can get this working first, and then we'll We're still doing mouse wheel stuff, so I have the agenda all set up for me to know what I'm trying to work on. So P for pattern, actually no, over here, P for pattern, go find a decent pattern and then try to... Okay, there we go. So maybe a little bit slower than I want. Not too bad, but maybe a little slower than I want. Also, it gets a little bit faster as you zoom in, just because of the way the rendering works. Maybe we'll have to figure that out as well. But right now, we got something going, right? We got the mouse scrolling in there, and that's good. So let's do a git status. Git commit -am to do refine mouse scroll, mouse zoom. Refine mouse wheel zoom. Right, so we're going to refine the mouse wheel zoom. The project actually compiles, so we can push it up to our public as well. So we'll do that. So push that up to Kanji Coder Master. Cool. Okay, so now that we have that kind of pushed up to where we want it, we need to work on some blueprints really quick. So we're gonna close this console, and we're gonna shove this stuff up on our top monitor because it is stuff that we don't want to be looking at right now. We actually want to open up our other code for the project we're working on, right? So we're going to go in here, we're going to go to the UPAT folder, and we should have like cut folder, and then we have the coffee table folder, and then in here we have the acrylic, and then we have all these these cutting files. So we're going to open this up over here. We're going to put it on our other monitor, or not our other monitor, but our partition here. We're going to zoom extents. We're going to center that nicely. Get a nice top-down view. And then we also want to look at the code, right? So we're going to go... we're going to take this, and we can use this lurk file. We can put this over here. We'll close this. I just want this active so that when my last active editor is going to be whatever this opens with. I go open with Notepad++. So now that I have this over here, and this over here, I can start coding some things for the scrap sheets that I want to cut. So I have some more scrap sheets that are not quite the same size, and I want to adjust the pattern for the new scrap sheet. So I got to go grab that. Okay. Okay, so 12 by 3.5. So we need something that's more like 12 by 3.5, right? So we're going to say 12 by 3.5 here. That function doesn't exist, so it gives us a warning, right? And we're going to just steal all of this stuff here, right? We're just going to steal all this. And it's not scrap sheet 2, though. It's going to be scrap sheet 3, right? So scrap sheet 3 is going to be 12 by 3.5. So 12 by 3.5 for scrap sheet 3. Okay, so now we actually have to edit this, right? So the inch bounds right here, first of all, let's get rid of the micro point for that, and let's change the inch bounds to 12 by 3.5, right? And if we do that, everything's kind of slightly off, right? Like, we can almost fit what we're looking for, but not quite. So it's so close that I might want to reevaluate that and say maybe we can say 13, right? Like maybe most of the scrap I'm looking at is actually 13, and maybe I need to think about that again. Yeah, actually a lot of this other scrap is like bigger than this, so actually 13.5. Some of the scrap hits like 13.5. I just have like 3 scrap sheets that fit. Okay, actually, let's not do this scrap, because that scrap is a little bit. This is more like. Change my mind on this. This is more like. The scrap I have right now is more like 3.75 by. Mm-hmm. 3.75 by 13.5, more likely. Did I say 13.75? This would be more like 13.5. 13.5 by 3.75. Okay. Changing my mind again here. Alright, I'll be right back. Actually, I'm gonna stop the stream.